Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to hear will shake every corner of the hip-hop world, because this ain't just another courtroom rumor, this is a full-blown explosion. Lil Durk has officially been interrogated on hidden tapes, and the person pulling the trigger on this chaos, none other than King Von's grieving mother, who just looked the world dead in the eye and said, "Knew who killed my son." Let that sit in your chest for a second. How long has this been hidden? How deep does the silence go? And why is it now, just after that courtroom bomb dropped, that she's finally speaking? You see, the tapes don't lie. The timelines don't lie. But someone close has been lying this whole time. And now it's all unraveling. From gang ties to buried secrets, to phone calls, the world was never supposed to hear this. Is no longer about guilt or innocence. It's about survival, legacy, and the truth rising through the cracks. So buckle up. Because if Lil Durk thought he could bury this story, he's about to find out. The grave he dug for Von's truth might be the same one that buries him. So let's rewind for a second, back to the courtroom where this whole circus really caught fire. Picture it, a dead silent room, thick with tension, when a court official casually pulls out a file. Not just any file, the one no one was supposed to see. And in that file, hidden transcripts, audio surveillance, confidential interviews, all pointing in one direction. One name, Durk Derek Banks, aka Lil Durk. Now, let's not pretend Lil Durk hasn't danced near the flames before. His rap sheet is practically a mixtape of suspicious associations, near arrests, and headlines, soaked in mayhem, gun charges, gang ties, people around him dropping like flies, and somehow, Durk always ends up untouched, untouchable. But this time it's not some anonymous blog throwing shade. This is caught, on the record. And the moment those words slipped out, interrogation on record, you could feel the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. But here's what the public didn't hear. What wasn't broadcast on live streams or leaked to Twitter in real time behind closed doors. Authorities had been poking the bear for months. Quietly, strategically. See, the truth doesn't just knock, it sneaks in when you least expect it. And when Von's mother was approached for questioning, her response didn't come with tears. It came with fury. Cold, controlled, calculated. She didn't just say her piece, she blew the whole roof off. She told us, one source claimed, that Durk knew, not just after it happened but before. She said Von trusted him, told him about issues brewing, named names, gave warnings, and when it was time to speak up, Durk played dumb. Now that kind of accusation, that doesn't just stir the pot, turns the whole stove upside down. The prosecution knew what they had wasn't enough to indict Lil Durk yet, but it was enough to dig deeper. And dig they did. Burner phones, deleted texts, surveillance footage that someone tried very hard to bury, or leading back to one question: if Durk wasn't directly involved, why did he seem so desperate to cover his tracks? And let's not forget how tight Durk and King Von were, at least pretended to be. They were the industry's favorite brotherhood. OTF was the brand, loyalty was the label, and behind all those matching chains and shoutouts, apparently, a whole lot of betrayal. One insider, who claims to have worked in Von's inner circle, said it best. People always saw Von as the wild one, the reckless one, but Von, he was honest. Durk, he's the one who played chess while Von was out there swinging. And that quote, that's stuck in everyone's minds, because now, fans are digging up every old interview, every side comment, every weird facial expression, during podcasts and press runs, trying to find the cracks. And those cracks, they're everywhere. There's this one interview that's been circulating again, an old Breakfast Club appearance where Durk is asked directly about Von's death, and he hesitates, stutters, changes the subject. Back then, people wrote it off as grief. Now it looks a lot more like guilt. But let's push this even further. You remember that weird tweet storm Durk had right after Von passed? The one where he said, "They gon' blame me anyway." At the time, it seemed cryptic. Now it sounds like a man preparing for war. Or maybe just trying to clean up a mess before the blood dried. And here's where things get really strange. A week after the court tape leak, a private audio file hit the inbox of a Chicago radio station. Unlabeled, untraceable, but very real. It was a low-quality recording, probably from a wired conversation, but the voices, unmistakable. One sounded a lot like Durk, the other, allegedly, someone from Von's crew. The topic, retaliation. The vibe, panic. In the clip, you can hear Durk saying something like, "That *T went too far, bro. I told him to chill. I told him it wasn't time." But here's what makes it eerie. He never says who him is, or what wasn't time. But when you match that up with what Von's mom is now publicly screaming, it paints a different picture entirely. Because here's the dark underbelly of this whole story. People don't just die in this game, they get lined up. And when Von got that call to go meet up that night, he didn't think twice. He was fearless, like that. But what if someone else knew that wasn't just a meetup? What if someone close had already stepped back? People who were there said Durk wasn't anywhere near the scene. In fact, he'd flown out 2 days earlier. No goodbye, no last link up, just vanished. But he did drop a song the next week, and in it, subtle references, hidden guilt, the kind of lyrics you only hear clearly after the damage is done. Sometimes the ones you love the most get taken first. He raps in one line, in another, I got demons I ain't never prayed away. At the time, it was poetic. Now it's a confession wearing studio polish. And fans are eating it up, not in celebration, in suspicion. Twitter threads are popping off like wildfire. YouTube sleuths are dissecting every word, every bar. Instagram lives are turning into full-on conspiracy panels. And right in the middle of it, a grieving mother who just dropped the biggest quote of all. He watched my son walk into death, and said nothing. Those are not words you recover from. Those are not accusations that get shrugged off. But before we even begin to ask if this could go to trial, if this could lead to charges, we have to look at the people who are already making moves. Lawyers, PR teams, people scrubbing old content, locking down old files, hitting YouTube channels with takedown requests. That's not panic, it's preemptive damage control. And Lil Durk's silence right now, deafening. No denial, no tweet, no you're crazy, post just nothing. Which brings us right to the next twist. Because while the court of public opinion is already halfway to conviction, the actual authorities, they're not just watching, they're listening. And someone inside the Chicago Police Department allegedly told a blogger that the department has more than enough reason to reopen certain sealed documents. But the question is, who gave them the green light? That's where this story really begins to spiral. Because this didn't start in the courtroom. It didn't even start with the tapes. It started with one quiet, determined mother, sitting across from investigators, telling them, I don't care how big he is, I don't care what he's rapping about. That man knew, and I'm not letting this go. And she hasn't. In fact, word is she's got more recordings, more conversations, and more people willing to talk now that the seal's been cracked. And just when you think it couldn't get worse for Durk, a new name enters the chat, a name no one expected. And just when you think it couldn't get worse for Durk, a new name enters the chat, a name no one expected. Muwop. That single quotes us right. The same Muwop who was once hailed as King Von's right-hand man, the one people thought would ride for him no matter what, the one currently sitting behind bars, facing charges, himself. While according to an anonymous jailhouse source, Muwop has allegedly been talking, not publicly, not on social media, but in sealed federal interviews. The rumor he's turning things over, and not just about his own case, but about what went down that night Von died. Who knew what, who said what, and most disturbing, backed out. According to the leak, Muwop told authorities that Durk stepped away just days before the hit, like he knew something was about to pop off. He also allegedly mentioned that Von felt watched, like someone from inside the circle had flipped on him. And if that wasn't enough, a quote from the alleged transcript reads, Von told me straight up, if anything happens, watch who. Don't speak. Let that line sink in for a second. Because now fans are going back, looking at who was vocal after Von's death and who wasn't. And Lil Durk's name keeps landing on the wrong side of that list. But this isn't just about the streets anymore. Oh no, this has gone mainstream. TMZ picked it up. Academics started hinting. Even Breakfast Club mentioned it very lightly. But it was there. And when Charlemagne says something's fishy, you know the whole industry's ears perk up. We're watching right now. It's not just a scandal. It's a slow-motion character assassination. The fall of a golden boy who managed to skate past case after case after case until now. And if you think Durk is just sitting back and taking this heat, think again. Behind the scenes, his team is scrambling. Sources close to his label say his legal team is working overtime, trying to discredit the tapes, the leaks, and even Von's mother's statement. Apparently, there's a push to label her claims as emotional instability due to grief. Really, that's the strategy. That's the strategy. Try telling a mother who lost her son in broad daylight that she's just emotional. See how that works out. But that's the tactic: gaslight, discredit, bury the truth in paperwork and PR stunts. And while they're at it, They've reportedly started contacting bloggers, offering exclusive content in exchange for not posting anything negative. Some took the deal, others doubled down. But Von's mum, she's not for sale, and neither is her truth. In fact, she's been reaching out. Sources say she's trying to get a sit-down interview with one major platform, something raw, unfiltered, and devastating. And if that happens, game over. Because when a mother cries on camera, the world watches. But when she speaks with fire in her chest and receipts in her hand, that's war. And here's the part nobody wants to talk about, but we will. What if Lil Durk wasn't the one who pulled the trigger? What if he didn't set Von up directly? Does that make him innocent? Because there's a big difference between pulling the trigger and letting it happen. And if Durk knew something was brewing, knew Von was walking into something and chose silence, that silence is deafening. And guess who else is starting to speak up? Other mothers. Yes, other grieving women from the Chicago rap scene who lost sons, nephews, and brothers to this endless cycle of retaliation and betrayal. And some of them are whispering the same thing. They always know. They just don't speak until it's too late. That line, that's starting to stick. And now the entire narrative is flipping. No longer is Lil Durk the survivor, but one who made it out. Now he's being painted as the one who used the deaths of others to build his empire. Sacrifice by silence, success by omission. And the more people look, the uglier it gets. People are digging into his lyrics, not just the obvious ones, but the subtle ones. The lines that didn't make sense before, but now sound like veiled confessions. Like in that track Backdoor, where he says, "It hurt me to my heart the way I love my or I told Von to watch them nas. They'd do something to you." Asterisk at the time, fans thought it was grief. Now they hear guilt. And here's another twist for your head. Multiple unreleased tracks have mysteriously vanished from Durk's unreleased catalog, tracks that insiders claim referenced Von directly by name. So why delete them? Why now? Because someone's cleaning house, scrubbing any trail that might suggest foreknowledge, complicity, or even the tiniest link between Durk and the night Von died. But you know who's not scrubbing? Asian Doll. Asian Doll, the self-proclaimed queen of Von's heart, is back. In the mix, she went live just days after the interrogation rumors broke. And baby, she spilled. Said Von knew somebody close was moving funny. Said he told her not to trust everyone around him. And when fans asked her directly if she meant Durk, she didn't say yes. She just smirked, looked into the camera, and said, "You're smart. You'll know what's up." Boom. Now every blog in the culture's got that clip on replay, and the comment sections, straight up bloodbaths. Half the fans screaming Durk would never, and the other half picking apart every second like they're on CSI hip-hop. But let's talk about timing. Why now? Why is all this hitting the fan right as Durk is gearing up for another album drop? Why do these leaks always seem to surface when he's trying to rebrand or shift public attention? Could it be industry sabotage? Could someone from inside be feeding these flames? Or could it be karma? Because let's not forget, Durk's entire come-up has been surrounded by shadows. While his friends dropped, he rose. While bodies dropped, his brand soared. And even if that's just circumstance, perception is everything. And right now, the perception is poison. And you know what happens when enough people start believing the same rumor? It becomes a truth, a narrative. And narratives don't need facts, they just need momentum. And baby, this one is picking up speed like a runaway train. Meanwhile, Von's mother has reportedly secured legal representation, not just to speak, to act. There's talk of a civil lawsuit, not criminal yet, but a wrongful death suit aimed at parties who knew, enabled, or ignored threats to her son's life. That language, dangerous, because if it sticks, it pulls people into the mud, even those who didn't pull the trigger. And Lil Durk is on the shortlist. According to early reports, subpoenas could go out to multiple parties, texts, calls, emails, any communication around the time of Von's death. And if they find even one message suggesting pre-knowledge, it's over. And you want to know what makes it worse? The silence from the OTF camp. Nobody defending Durk. Nobody posting free Durk. Nobody saying anything. That's not loyalty. That's not loyalty. Distance. Strategic distance. Because in this game, when the storm hits, everyone grabs an umbrella, even if they were standing right next to you in the sunshine. And speaking of storms, another leak just hit the underground blogs. A police memo, dated just last week, referencing a sealed investigation involving prominent Chicago rap affiliates, and multiple witness statements connected to prior homicides. The names were redacted, but the context unmistakable. And right there, at the center of the storm, sits lildurk.com on the surface, but surrounded by whispers, allegations, and a mother who refuses to back down. And now there's talk that the feds might step in. And now there's talk that the feds might step in. According to two independent sources close to the case, one a legal analyst and the other a retired Chicago detective, the Department of Justice has been monitoring online chatter and reviewing the possibility of reopening or reassessing certain cases with previously inconclusive findings. Translation: if enough smoke rises, the feds are going to find the fire. And Lil Durk just became the hottest name on their watch list. But this isn't just about Von anymore. This is about the bigger picture. Because let's not pretend for a second that the music industry doesn't know how to protect its investments. When money's flowing and hits are charting, artists become assets. And when those assets come under fire, the machine moves quickly. Quietly, whispers are now swirling that Durk's label is already pulling certain strings, halting interviews, cancelling appearances, even postponing rollout plans for his next project. That's not a rebrand, that's a retreat. Damage control in its purest form, because no brand wants to touch an artist whose name is being tossed around in connection with hidden tapes, federal heat, and grieving mothers. But while lawyers shuffle, papers and managers hide behind burner phones, guess who just showed up at a vigil? King Von's mother. In full black, with no entourage, no press team, just a single photo of her son and a microphone in her hand. And what she said sent chills down the internet's spine. She looked right at the crowd, took a long breath, and said, "My son had love for everybody, even people who didn't love him back. But love doesn't mean silence, and silence doesn't mean innocence." That line, that hit like a bullet to the chest, not just to fans but to the man at the center of it all, Lil Durk. And it gets worse, because guess who else showed up that night watching from a distance? No words, no photos, just standing there. Memo 600. Yeah, him. And rumor has it, he's been growing increasingly distant from the OTF camp, removing tags, deleting pictures, dropping cryptic posts like, "Loyalty don't live here no more." And if you know, you know. Insiders are saying that he and Durk haven't spoken directly in over 3 months. And when you pair that with his recent podcast appearance where he was asked, if you could bring back Von, what would you change? His response, I'd tell him to stay away from certain people, even the ones with chains that say family. Yeah, he said that. On record, unedited. This isn't a coincidence anymore. This is a fracture. And fractures lead to collapses. The kind that don't get repaired. Meanwhile, federal interest is building. The tapes, the witness whispers, the jailhouse murmurs, they're all being reviewed. A grand jury isn't out of the question. And sources say Durk's legal team is preparing in the event of a formal inquiry. And let's not pretend Durk doesn't feel it. His recent IG story was just a black screen. No caption, just silence. The same kind of silence that got him into this mess in the first place. And while he's been playing the quiet game, other voices have been getting louder. A Savage, another Chicago name with a history of keeping tabs on the streets, just dropped a freestyle where he said, "Some of y'all love the dead but fear the truth. Some of y'all watched the move and didn't warn the booth." Fans instantly flooded the comments. Is this about Durk? He talking about Von? The timing was too perfect to ignore. Even industry veterans are starting to chime in. Boosie Badass went live the other day, ranting about fake loyalty and how some of these rappers get rich off the bodies of the real ones. He didn't name names, but he didn't have to. The streets heard him loud and clear, and the real question now is, how long can this story stay contained? Because every day a new leak drops, a new message screenshot, a new voice memo, new cryptic lyric that fans pull apart like vultures on fresh meat. And eventually, one of those pieces is going to stick. And when it does, game over. But here's the part that's scariest of all for Durk, for the label, for everyone trying to spin this story into dust. This mother, she's not going anywhere. She's not a one interview and done story. She's not a let it go kind of woman. She buried her son in his prime. Watched the world mourn him while smiling at the very people she believes betrayed him. And now that she's found her voice, she's going to use it. She's already reportedly been in contact with a well-known journalist from Vice. Talks are in the early stages, but the idea is a full documentary start to finish. Von's life, his rise, his circle, his death, and the silence that followed. If that documentary drops, it won't just destroy reputations, it'll immortalize suspicion. And if you think fans won't care, think again. This isn't just rap beef anymore. This is betrayal. This is legacy. This is the kind of story that doesn't just fade, it burns. And you know who else is feeling the heat? India Royale. Yup, Durk's longtime partner. Quiet for months, but recently posted a single tweet. You never really know someone until they're the last one standing. No tags, no name, just vibes. But fans aren't stupid. They know what that means, and now the pressure's hitting from every angle. The streets, the fans, the mothers, the insiders, and the feds. And what does Durk have? A lawyer, a silence, and a past he can't erase. So where does this end? With another funeral? With another quote from a mother no one believed until it was too late? Or with a courtroom packed with cameras, recording the downfall of one of rap's biggest stars? Only time will tell. But if we've learned one thing from this case, it's that the truth always finds its way out. No matter how long it takes, no matter how powerful the players. The truth doesn't need permission. It doesn't care about chains or fame or billboard charts. It just waits, and then it strikes. Because you can run from a lot of things, but you can't run from a mother who's made it her life's mission to expose you. So here's your moment. Lil Durk. Say something. Before the silence becomes your story. So now the world watches. Not with sympathy, not with confusion, but with eyes wide open, because this isn't just a rap feud. This is a mother's battle cry, a federal whisper, a fandom split down the middle. And Lil Durk, he's no longer just a chart-topping rapper. He's a question mark, a walking headline, a man with too many silences and not enough answers. And the question hanging over all of this, what else is on those tapes? We've only seen the beginning, the court leaks, just the tip of the iceberg. If even half of what Von's mother claims is real, then this whole story, it's about to explode in ways the industry can't spin, silence, or bury. So now we turn it over to you. Do you believe Von's mother? Is Lil Durk just caught in the storm? More, did he help build the clouds? Was it guilt or grief? And if those tapes go public, will the world finally see Durk for who he really is? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back. This isn't a moment to whisper. This is the moment to speak. Like the video if you want the uncut version of those tapes released. Subscribe if you're ready for the next expose, because we're not done digging. And remember, this is Celebrity Press, where the truth doesn't need permission, it just needs a mic. We'll see you in the next one, or maybe in court.